Welcome, exiles, to Bait or No Bait, a game show where we give you the honest truth, the cold hard facts about what builds are bait and what builds aren't bait. It's pretty simple. If you play a bait build, things go south fast. You start losing limbs, you start losing friends, you start losing your will to keep living. But if you play a non-bait build, nothing but positives. I'm talking winning the lottery, I'm talking winning the Nobel Prize, I'm talking getting random medals from the president of Uganda. I'm talking big stuff here. Now, let's get into it. Where do we start off with? First up, we have DS Lily bringing in a Blade Blast Occultist. From the first glance, this build seems really good, really strong, budget friendly, but unfortunately, the Bait or No Bait team found an issue. We have a potential build copying scenario. Is she copying Tripolar Bear? Is he copying her? Well, we did some digging, and it seems they all might be copying Badger from last league. But Badger in his video actually references his source, which is Gucci. So are they all copying Gucci? Well, we kept digging. And we found none other than Jungroan himself, the snitch, had a build for Blade Blast, Blade Fall, Occultist 6 months earlier, prior to the build guide by Gucci. Now you may think, yeah, Jungroan, that makes sense. He's an original build creator, right? But no, he isn't, because this actually came from SoMad himself. 1 year ago, the original Blade Blast, Blade Fall, Occultist build guide came from SoMad. A genius, too great for the game, he left it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Probably should get these builds all thrown out because they're copycats. But maybe, we let it slide because SoMad is a genius and he's made such a great build. Unfortunately, we did even more digging and we found another Blade Blaster guide made by Telvanni. Now you're thinking, okay, if all these people are making the same build, it must be good. Unfortunately, I have some sad news for you. Telvanni also posted a video for Spectral Helix as a league starter. And with this information alone, we can conclude via the transitive property, if Telvanni thinks Spectral Helix is a good build, and he thinks Blade Blast is a good build, clearly his judgment is lacking, and he has thus spoiled the whole bunch of Blade Blast builds because they are all delusional and they are making none other than bait builds. Do not trust this league starter. It is not a good idea. Next up, we have Kobe Black Mamba, an actual god at the game. He not only plays softcore trade like a boss, he also competes in SSFHC events like it's, his second job or something. But unfortunately, there is an issue with this build. Venom Gyre Helix Deadeye. Do you see the issue? Deadeye. Do you see the issue? Kobe Black Mamba, Deadeye. Does that even sound right? That doesn't sound right at all. Look at his eyes right now. He looks depressed. You know why? Because he has been held at gunpoint. Somebody's forcing him to play a Deadeye instead of the actual good ascendancy, which is Berserker. We can only conclude this is an elaborate bait scheme, and you should not play this build. Now, besides the hostage situation going on with the Kobe Black Mamba, let's go on to a more positive note, which is Big Ducks. He's a positive guy. I've never really seen him trash talk other content creators, but I've seen him get trash talked a lot, so he would have reason to retaliate, yet he never does. And he's giving us what looks like a speedy character for the Heist League start, which, unfortunately for us, that's also the reason we have to disqualify him, because Heist? Are you serious? Are you trying to get people to hate the game? No. This is Heist bait. Do not trust it, people. Whenever you think, yeah, I'm going to league start and I'm going to do infinite Heist, you're going to infinitely queue out of the game because you hate it so much because it's not fun. It is not fun content. Getting a little biased here. We don't do that at the Bait or No Bait team, so I should probably move on. Looking at our next guest, we have Mathel himself. Now, I know what you're saying. That's a video from 3 months ago. That was builds for Arch Nemesis, but it's now builds for Sentinel, except it's actually builds for Lake of Kalandra. And you think we are denying the rules of how time works here? We should get a recent video. Unfortunately for us, he hasn't posted a recent video, but that doesn't matter. You know why it doesn't matter? Because Mathel's the type of guy who can defy gravity, okay? If he can defy gravity, he can defy the laws of how time works. It's a pretty simple concept, and all you really need to know is if you pick any build from this league start list, guaranteed Giga Chad, you're going to dominate this league start. That's going to be a hard one to follow up, but we got a real god gamer here. Ventrua. He's got a list of a lot of builds. Unfortunately, his list of builds is terrible. It's a list of builds that you can qualify with one word, which is boring. They're all super boring. But luckily, I was talking in stream, and eventually chat convinced him of his mistakes, and he decided, you know what? I'm actually going to go Bone Shatter Slayer. A really good, solid league starter. But the Beta No Bait team informed me that really there's only one man who can represent the Bone Zone Slayer and get it done right, and that's Karn. Now, if Karn was recommending this league starter, you could verify that, you know what, this league starter is going to be done right. It's something you can trust. It's something you can follow. Unfortunately, there is danger on the horizon. Now, if you look at the patch notes, you've been noticing the stun threshold for the Juggernaut, Steel Infused, Bonebreaker monsters has been getting swapped around a lot, you know? It's been nerfed, it's been buffed, yada, yada, yada. It's in shaky ground, and we have some inside sources. We've been doing some research, and this, unfortunately, is one of the builds that is going to get hit by the GGG snitch. I'm talking about Jung Roan, people. The man is going to destroy this build. He's informing GGG that Bone Zone will be overpowered if the stun threshold does not go back to immunity, and quite frankly, with our inside source, it looks like it is going to go back to immunity thanks to the GGG snitch. This is bait, people. This is bait, people. You gotta watch out. If the snitch is on the sniffing spree for a good build, guaranteed he's gonna try to ruin it. Don't tell this man anything about your league starters, people. He's dangerous. Now, up next, we have Subtractem Chaos.Occultus, a tried and true classic. Unfortunately, you have to do some thumbnail analytics, people, to get to the bottom of the fact that, once again, there is no Zeus in this picture. If Zeus doesn't support a build, it's not a good build. Now, luckily, on the bright side, it appears based on this more recent photo that Zeus is preparing to eliminate Subtractem. He's going to take Subtractem out, he's going to start running the show, and he's going to start giving us some good builds. Now, this means you're going to get a little bit less of Subtractem on screen, and just a hell of a lot more good builds. So kind of a net positive, maybe a little bit of a net negative, you know, depending on who you are. If you're Subtractem's mom, you might want to try to stop Zeus, but it may be too late. Frankly, we couldn't keep up with Zeus, so we don't know if he's already, you know, committed the actions. You'll have to wait for more news on that. Moving on, bait, people. We have, now I didn't say bait, you know, just now because Trickster RF is bait, right? There are whole other categories for what this build could be labeled. This man is on copium shipments. He gets them weekly, and I don't know if his body has worked up some sort of immunity to it. I don't know how he hasn't died from the overdose, but when you say Trickster and you say Righteous Fire, and you put those two words together, you've entered a category of insane that can't be measured on a, you know, normal scale. Let's just say you put him in a room, you lock the door, you throw away the key, and you walk away because it's better for society if it stays that way. This is a bait build, people. Do not trust it. Now, next up, we have Sir Gog. Holy Giga Chad! This man does never stop making content. Last league, we gave him a content unlimited stamina ranking. This league, he one-upped it. Within 2 weeks, this man has produced over like 20 videos. Now, this clearly puts him in the content behemoth category. Unfortunately, let's be realistic here. If he's making this much content, there's no way he has time to make a good build. It's not physically possible. He doesn't have the time. We have to label this as bait, okay? Even though he's a content behemoth, we got to be realistic here at the Beta No Bait team. No one has the time to make that much content and make a good build on the side. It's just not humanly feasible. Next up, of course, we have a topic that probably should be addressed, and that's the topic of 5 top league starters. Or, you know, if you get a little bit creative, maybe you change the number a little bit. You say 3, okay, that's a little bit different. Oh, 10? Now that guy's committed. We got 5 and 3 from Kobe Black Mamba. He put out the video for top 3, and maybe it just didn't get enough traction, so he decided to, you know, throw in top 2 because people were mad that he didn't include the 4th and 5th choice. You know, that's very considerate of him to make 2 videos on it. Next up, you know, another 5, got another 5, got another 15. Holy man, that guy's committed. They can take notes from a guy like this. That is work ethic, people. Being able to copy and paste 3 times as many builds is honestly impressive. Now, at this point, I kind of got tired of taking pictures of all these builds that were copied and pasted. We at the Bait or No Bait team have to be honest with you, people. These builds are not original. They're not interesting. Frankly, they're all the same. And we're looking at a large-scale copy pasta bait franchise. Either these people don't have their own original builds, or B, don't have the ability to make their own original builds. Moral of the story is, don't trust a copy pasta, okay? There is going to be things they do to perfectly fine builds to ruin them, or they're going to just suggest bad builds because it's going to be builds they haven't played and they don't know if they're actually good. They're just suggesting things that they think are popular to get more views. It's an unethical practice that the Bait or No Bait team here cannot support. Here, let's move on to a better note of something that we like to call an actual original build. Look at this, MBX, mind over matter. He's thinking lightning conduit. He's thinking he's gonna go hard, right? Now, this build will be original. Unfortunately, it will also probably be bad. So take that how you will. We're gonna have to throw this in the category of bait. I love MBX. He's a fantastic guy, but the man he's a little bit out there on this one. He might have started taking some of Captain Lance's copium. Now, let's move on to our next contestant, which is Path of Math. If you want damage, you go Path of Math. If you want to kill bosses, you go Path of Math. If you want to be able to use 6 portals efficiently, you go Path of Math. Unfortunately, he somehow managed to make an Inquisitor with really bad defenses, and the Bait or No Bait team, we have a high opinion of Inquisitor, and to see Inquisitor, mutilated like this, it hurts us to the core of our being, and therefore we have to label this as bait. So, sorry Path of Math, you make some high damage builds, but this is going under the bait category, and that is non-refundable. Now, next up we have Grimro. This guy just doesn't seem to ever give up on Corrupting Fever. He watched Zizarin for a long time play Essence Drain Contagion league after league after league, and he thought, you know what? I saw Essence Drain Contagion continue to be a mediocre build, and yet Zizarin played it anyways. I can follow suit. I can play Corrupting Fever again and again and again and keep making it work. We at the Bait or No Bait team labeled this a bait build last league. Personally, we've come to the conclusion that if Grimro can play this build for another 4th or 5th league straight, maybe he is onto something. Maybe we misjudged, and we're going to tentatively put this in the not bait category, believe it or not. This build is going to go in the not bait category. Hold on. We are getting a phone call in. Apparently, we have another build creator creating a gladiator character. What is that? The British Exile is making an SST bleed gladiator. Now that changes things, people. That changes things. Hold your phones, because the British Exile, if you've seen any of his videos, you know this man deletes all his currency. Surely he doesn't just clip the scenes where he deletes the currency. It's just what happens to him every time. He has the worst RNG on planet Earth. Now, his RNG is so bad that if you play the same Ascendancy class as him, you can guarantee yourself you will brick every Val Orb you use. You will mineral every Divine Orb you roll. Every time you exalt something, you will get the wrong mod. I am talking negative levels of RNG that will destroy you. It's like playing the game on hardcore solo self-found, but harder edition. So because of that, we're gonna actually have to label both these builds as bait, because you don't want to play a gladiator and end up getting destroyed by RNG itself. We've been here before. I don't know how many times Palstron can keep regurgitating the explosive arrow ballista build, and you might be saying, now Bait or No Bait team, last time you had a character or a man, Grimro, who would keep playing the same build over and over, you actually gave them the not bait category. Now, there's a difference here. He's playing ballistas, okay? If you were to compare that to, I don't know, build like Balor Mage, who's playing, bow skills the way God intended, with your bow shooting arrows running around and not just some sticks in the ground shooting the arrows for you, you can start to understand our perspective here. And clearly, we have a classic scenario where you have explosive arrow, one guy does it horribly wrong, and one guy does it so right. This is a bait and a no bait situation we're looking at here. Balor Mage, he understands what bows are used for. They're used for shooting monsters, not for giving your bows to some random pulls in the ground. It's pretty simple math. Who would really trust a pull to kill monsters for you? Now, next up, we have Gazi, a minion prodigy. This man is always a great source to get your minion builds. Unfortunately, I think he maybe missed patch notes. He doesn't seem to realize that Necromancer is no longer viable. We at the Beta No Bait team had a strong concurrent opinion coming in, which was Necromancer is now dead. They actually made it so Necromancer can only allocate 3 Ascendancy nodes along with deleting Necromancer's best node. He clearly wasn't informed that Necromancer is dead. I hope he, gets told about it before the league starts, so that way he knows to plan for something like a Scion or a Guardian or an Elementalist, because Necromancer's just not good anymore. Unfortunately, hopefully that news gets to him, but for right now, we're gonna have to label this as bait until he redoes the video with a different Ascendancy to have an actual good Ascendancy, right? Next up, we have Quinn69. We have to include this because we have a lot of people asking questions. What happened to Quinn69? Where are the God Gamers builds, and why can't we copy him? Well, it's pretty simple. He's actually broke now, and he has to do a real job on the side to earn back some money because he lost it all gambling, or not gambling. I think he was actually, it's not important. Point is, he's not actually going to be making any builds for the new league because he can't afford to spend time playing because he's in debt and he's got to get the loan sharks off his back. Please send this man some money. He needs the charity. We'd love to see him back in the community playing the game and showing us how to kill Ubers. 4 out of 7, God Gamer. Next up, we have Omicid. Now, he is league starting as a degenerate gambler. Normally, we would support degenerate gambling in Path of Exile because what the hell could go wrong? But unfortunately, that would get us canceled. We do have a childlike audience and we can't promote gambling to them. So unfortunately, this is going to have to go under the bait category. Sorry to say, but do not start as a degenerate gambler. It is not recommended. You will end up financially destitute. After that, we have the fine upstanding citizen, that is Spicy Sushi. Now, there are some obviously good things about this league starter. He's acquired a Mage Blood. He's got a strategy that involves Sextants. He's really going to be popping off here. Unfortunately for us, he was so close to greatness, but there is one clear problem with this league starter, and that is that he's using Explosive Arrow. He must have been baited by Palstron, or he got kidnapped by Palstron. No one really knows why people choose Explosive Arrow. It's seemingly without logic, without reason. And the Beta No Bait team, we're trying to get government assistance of a police force of some sort to stop Palstron from what he's doing to these fine people. But he is an elusive man. He has been stacking Nightblade even when his Explosive Arrow builds, and we can't seem to find out or pin down where he's located. So Spicy Sushi unfortunately goes under the bait category. Now next up we have ourselves Phoenix. He's playing an Arc Lightning Elementalist, a witch of some sort, I believe. To be honest, we're not really sure, but what we can tell you is that you don't copy Enki's Arc Witch and get away with it, Phoenix. We know what you're doing. This is plagiarism. This is straight up thievery, and for that reason, it goes under the bait category. If you want a real Arc Witch, you look up Enki's Arc Witch. That's where you go. After him, we got to follow this up with a controversial man, Firegrass. In the past, he has recommended some league starters known as Occultist, Tornado Shot, Poison. People didn't like it, and he got some flack. This league, he's switching it up, and he's going for Raider, Scourge Arrow, Poison Totem. Completely different build, guys. Completely different build. He's definitely got a good one this time. I can recommend it, except I can't because it's more totem bait, guys. How many times do you have to think, yeah, totem's a good idea, then play totems, realize it's the most unfun garbage you've ever played, to then switch out of it? Don't play totems. It's just a simple rule of thumb. It's not recommended. We at the Beta No Bait team want you to have fun, and therefore we cannot recommend this league starter. Oh, man. This has been a lot of disappointment, but luckily we have some quality minion build creators in Incase Gaming and the Gamer Report. They have been popping off making videos for minion builds. This unfortunately comes at a grave time because I think these two content creators have been manipulated and seduced by Captain Lance propaganda. The man said minions would still be good next league, and quite frankly, he was an arrogant liar, okay? He didn't know what he was talking about, but somehow he seduced these pure minion build creators and made them think that minion builds could still be good as league starters, and they just can't because they got destroyed by the patch notes. Unfortunately, we have to label such good content creators as K Gaming and the Gamer Report also as bait builds. It does not pleasure me to do this labeling. It's just what needs to happen. Next up, we have a man who came from last epoch. And you can tell because he has here what looks to be like 15 original builds. He doesn't realize we do things different around here. In the PUE community, we press Control-C, Control-V, and we put it into one video and we slap top 5 league starters on it and it gets 100,000 views. He doesn't seem to understand the current meta. He seems to be putting in effort and work and originality, which is just not really something the PUE community wants. So hopefully he can adapt and learn we do things differently here. But until then, this is what you would probably have to label as some high effort bait. He's putting way too much effort into his bait builds, and he should put less effort and more Control-C, Control-V, if you know what I mean. Let's move on to what is no doubt going to be a good league starter. We're looking at Zizaran. He's got a lightning conduit build, and it's not only a lightning conduit build, but it's Zai's lightning conduit build. Zai makes some high quality builds. He's what half the hardcore content creators copy builds from, and he is here to bring us lightning conduit into the future. Now, this is something we at the Bait or No Bait team have to be conscious of. It looks good, it looks promising, but it doesn't account for one factor. One factor that will most certainly kill this build dead on arrival, and that's the GGG snitch. This man will not allow us to have fun. He sees fun builds, he tells GGG, GGG hits the kill switch, fun build is dead. And you can bet Lightning Conduit is on his lists of builds to snitch about. You can't trust it. This unfortunately has to go under the bait category, people. It pains me to say it, but Zizaran, don't worry, next league for sure, not bait build, I trust you. Up next, we have Pox. I know there have been some accusations of the show that we are biased towards Righteous Fire, and we have to refute that with clear evidence. And you want to see some clear evidence? I'll show you clear evidence. There's an entire website dedicated to this build. How many other builds have an entire website dedicated to it? I'll give you a number. It's 0. Righteous Fire is the only one, people. If you're going to come at me and say Righteous Fire, you're being biased by saying it's the best build, be realistic here. There's only one build that has an entire website dedicated to it. It's Righteous Fire, and Righteous Fire Inquisitor, it's not bait. It's nothing but a good build that we should trust and we should probably league start. Now, speaking of respectable good builds and good build content creators, Rutu, my guy. The man likes to make efficient, tanky, fast clearing, high DPS builds. And I know what you're thinking, man. He's never failed us before, and you're right about that. Unfortunately, we've discovered some evidence. We don't want to, put you on the burner like this, Rutu, but we actually found out that all of your good builds are made by Quantric. Kind of sus, kind of disappointing when your hero, your upstanding star citizen of build creation, is really just yoinking builds from a better man behind the curtain, such as Quantric. And all I gotta say is if you see builds by Rutu, you know it's from Quantric, you know it's gonna be good, but the unfortunate part, they're not gonna be good. And there's only one man you can blame for these builds not being good, and that's the GGG snitch! He's going to see these guys creating builds, he's gonna work his way into their POBs, and he's gonna target nerf every single good part of their builds. Until we out the GGG snitch, there's gonna be no fun in PoE. No fun. All of the fun is gonna be nerfed. I have to unfortunately label Quantric's good builds by Rutu as bait. People, do not play these builds. You don't understand how much it pains me to say these words, but it's true. Now, I know we've gone through a lot of bait builds, and you're wondering, Bait or No Bait show, all we have is Righteous Fire or Giga Chad builds by Mathel. How can we play builds of a variety, of an interesting perspective? If those builds don't necessarily fill all of our boxes, can we get some builds from somebody like Ben, or perhaps I'm Exile, the God Gamers? And this is where you have to know the inside scoop. And the inside scoop is all of their good builds, and all of really every good build in the game, it comes from one source. That's PoE Dan. All you got to do, you got to go into POB, Path of Building, baby. Click the import export character, type in PoE Dan 79 and hit start. That is the real true source to every good build in Path of Exile. If the build didn't come from this source, you probably can't trust it. But don't worry, now you have the source. Now you know. If you want a good starter, this is where you go, people. Thanks for watching. As always, the Bait or No Bait show is non-biased. All these conclusions we came to are 100% factual, unrefutable, and it will lead to your league start being a memorable, absolute domination. Take care, Exiles.